What's happening, y'all? And welcome to my channel. A channel as polished and professional as a 5-year-old's art project, but without the help of parents. Although I kind of wish my parents had helped me. Now, when you hear the words 2020, okay, so it's not news that this hasn't been an easy year. We've had some ups and a whole lot of downs. So should we really be looking at 2020 in a bubble? Can we really encapsulate all the events of 2020 within this bubble? When did these series of unfortunate events really begin? Was it all bad? And will 2021 save us from this hell that 2020 has brought? The short answer is no. Okay, bye! Okay, seriously, in this video we're going to analyze what went wrong this year, why it went wrong this year, and whether we'll be able to get ourselves out of this dumpster fire. Let's have a talk. So before we get into anything else, what actually happened this year? I think the better question is what didn't happen this year. Well, the never-ending story of this year was the ongoing global pandemic that we're still going through, which is basically the definition of ongoing. But yeah, the Rona is here and it's here to stay, it looks like. Now, the Rona has probably been the biggest cock blocker of the 2000s. You can't even stay close to people or as close as you'd like to due to how contagious it is and its overall lethality. So we basically had to shorten our social circles or cut them off completely. We've been home all day, all night. No gym, no movies, no restaurants. We're eating bad, we're stressed out, we're gaining weight. But if you're like me and you don't like people anyway, then you're probably like the dog in the house fire sipping coffee. This is fine. See, I was social distancing before it ever became trendy. So the Rona appears to be more lethal to older people and people with pre-existing health ailments. We'll consider them the at-risk people. Now, at-risk people are predominantly poor because why not? Like everything bad happens to the poor, right? Now, many at-risk people were forced to go to their jobs or their schools with no protections in place under the shining beacon of capitalism. Get me rich or die trying. As of recording of this video, over 250,000 Americans have died. And small businesses have suffered tremendously during this time due to the shelter-in-place orders. We've had people lose their jobs, we've had people lose their homes. The suicide rate is actually up during this time. But you got $1,200 from the government like 6 months ago, bro. And they deferred your student loans until next year. They're taking care of us. The pandemic also seems to have brought out the worst in people. We have people panic shopping, buying everything in the store and leaving very little for the rest of us. But let's be real, man. There's not enough asses in your family tree for all that toilet paper, bro. Come on. Now, if I were a betting man, and I am, I would guess that the same people that are buying up all the TP are the same people refusing to wear masks. We have groups of people that are protesting their right to not wear masks and infect the country because they don't believe the virus is as lethal as the CDC or the World Health Organization claims, or they think the government is trying to control them, or they think the overall virus is a hoax. I don't know. And they're willing to bet their grandparents' lives on it too. So I guess they're betting people as well. It's our constitutional right to protest, but come on guys, let's make it meaningful. Which brings me to the next major event. This year we've had several high-profile murders of Black Americans. Some were even caught on camera. And that's how casual it's become to murder African Americans. Oh, you're filming me? Well, let me make sure you capture my good side while I'm kneeling on this guy's neck. The three that caught national attention were Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. There were of course others, but Floyd's killing was the tipping point. These killings were so brutal and right in our face. The fact that the camera caught it meant that they could no longer deny the existence of institutional and systemic racism. But they still tried. Just look at the comment section of anything involving racism or social justice. Thankfully, people were so disgusted that we saw protests expand to an epic and global scale. It's kind of like anti-blackness, but the opposite. From worldwide protests to a worldwide collective gasp. Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna perished along with 7 others in a helicopter crash in Calabasas, California. This was a major gut punch to sports fans everywhere. Now, I hate the Lakers. But damn if he wasn't the closest thing to MJ we've ever seen. Now, Kobe played with a competitive fire that rivaled Jordan's. I mean, the guy got up at 4:30 a.m. to work out. 4:30 a.m. doesn't even exist to me. That shit does not compute. Kobe's competitiveness was only rivaled by his impatience, whether it would be with teammates or with, well, LA traffic. Kobe rode helicopters almost exclusively to avoid it. He's flown them thousands of times. Unfortunately, it was one time too many. R.I.P. Mamba. Well, the president got impeached. Could we even be surprised? Soon-to-be ex-president and current Cheeto fusion survivor Donald Trump was impeached for seeking aid from Ukraine to investigate his opponent, the now president-elect Joe Biden. The articles of impeachment were submitted to the Senate in January 2020. The Senate, led by Sith Lord McConnell, acquitted Trump of all charges in what was most certainly a fair trial. Harvey Weinstein, a man who probably wished he was tried by the Senate, was convicted of rape in February and sentenced to 23 years in prison in March. Dozens of women had accused him of various levels of sexual misconduct. This is for the Bill Cosby apologists who thought that Bill should go free because you had assumed that Weinstein was going free. 2 rapists do not make a right. They'll both die in prison. Well, the stock market crashed. A couple of politicians sold stocks before the crash. Nothing to see here. The murder hornets are here, guys. But not really. The reports kind of started in 2019, but really picked up steam in June of this year because, of course, bad news has to be scheduled every month in 2020. They originate in Asia, but they made their way across the Pacific. Not enough to be a threat, but enough to freak people out in a freaky year. Their stingers are actually bigger than the bees that they kill. But we're pretty much numb to this news at this point, so the media stopped covering it. Well, because of that and also because it was kind of overblown anyway. And nothing's still being done about the murder of Breonna Taylor. Is Kim Jong-un dead? Probably. Or maybe not. I personally think he is. But you may ask, Dan, he's made some appearances. Surely he's alive, right? Yeah, well, so has Jason Voorhees. I'll believe he's alive if he comes to my apartment right now and hands me $1 million. Well, Twitter got hacked. A lot of high-profile accounts were all hacked, and this was all linked to a Bitcoin scam. But don't worry, nothing's wrong with Trump's account. Those are all his actual tweets. Rookie mistake, guys. I deleted a whole portion on John Lewis. Now I see why they pay people to edit these. John Lewis passed away on July 17, 2020 of complications from pancreatic cancer. He died on the same day as his friend and fellow activist Cordy Tyndall Vivian. He was a surviving member of the Big Six, which were leaders of 6 major civil rights groups of the 60s who pushed for many of the changes that were made in the 60s and beyond. He later turned to politics as a member of the House and later the Senate. Discussing his accomplishments would require a whole video in itself. Rest in power. There was a huge explosion in Beirut in August that killed over 200 people, injuring over 6,000 people and causing billions of dollars in property damage, which has to be emphasized since we're prioritizing property over people. See the reaction to this year's protests as an example. Chadwick Boseman passed away, man. None of us saw that coming. This is definitely a lesson in body shaming. Y'all had jokes when he looked skinny and emaciated, and we had no idea what he was going through. We had no idea he was dying of cancer. Black Panther was important to young black kids because there's not enough high-profile representation in comic books or movies or comic book movies. Most of the characters would normally play a wild card, funny sidekick role. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. Wakanda forever. Any indictment in the Breonna Taylor murder? No? Oh, okay. The skies in California are orange. Orange seems to be the color of choice under the current regime. See, when you combine horribly polluted air with fires that don't die, you get a nightmarish sky that Bob Ross couldn't even paint. That yellow, ochre, and crimson red couldn't craft this shit. Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away just in time for a conservative majority to be instilled in the Supreme Court right before the election. Gosh, the timing. Your president has the Rona, and he used some not so conservative treatments to get past it. He's been trying to live his best life with no mask, running around the White House and passing it around like a game of taps. Election time. So I went to vote early around my way, but there were lines that went literally for blocks. So just like anyone else who had their vote suppressed, I said, hell nah, and I walked home. And that, my friends, is how voter suppression works. But there was something different this year. Mail-in votes. And that's how you combat voter suppression. Mail-in ballots should be allowed in every election, especially because the powers that be attempt to minimize the available voting locations to keep skeletons like Mitch McConnell in office. Being able to vote early and vote by mail turned the tide of an election in a system where the loser of the popular vote would oddly still be able to get into the White House. This math doesn't work anywhere else in the world. But then again, our math has always been backwards. We don't even use the metric system, so... The Electoral College is my least favorite college, besides Duke during March Madness. At time of recording, Joe Biden will be your next president. That is until the dementia kicks in, and we get used to saying President Harris. And Trump is slowly unraveling. He's like that final boss in a video game that accidentally depletes his own life bar for you on easy difficulty. So that's 2020 in a nutshell. We're not going to talk about what just happened, right? Fine. Alex Trebek passed away. That's a real bummer too. We've all watched Jeopardy, and we all think we'd excel at it, even though we don't know the answer to 99% of the questions, or the questions to 99% of the answers. Saturday Night Live used to have the funniest skits that revolved around Trebek and Sean Connery, and then they both pass away a week from each other. Well, you guys now have permission to say that's so 2020. So while editing this video, another tragedy has deboed its way into 2020. Tommy Tiny Lister passed away. Some remember him as Debo, the lovable bully from the Friday movies. Wrestling fans from 200 years ago remember him as Zeus. His entertainment career spanned over 30 years. Rest in power, big guy. 2020. What a hectic series of months. And you didn't secure the PS5. Okay, so now that we've discussed many of the wonderful things that's happened in 2020, let's now talk about the general consensus. Gosh, Dan, 2020 has got to go. Can't wait till it's over. This year can't end soon enough. Well, I'm afraid I got some bad news for you, my guys. As bad as you want it to all end, all this doesn't end at the stroke of midnight on December 31st, 2020. No year exists in a bubble. aside from business and tax purposes. I'll try to avoid being too political because I know the YouTube gods are watching and they will censor me. I see y'all. But this is the culmination of a series of bad decisions that began roughly 4 years ago. I mean, we had a pandemic response team, did we not? Under the prior administration, and then the current administration kind of swooped in, disbanded that. We don't need science, we don't need this, and we don't need that. And a lot of programs were cut, and here we are. But the Rona was a last year problem, hence the 19. It was simply outside of the US, so you sat comfortably and safely in your social circles while joking about why it's named after a beer. I know you did, because I did too. We took it lightly, and so did people way up the chain of command. Oops, I hit my mic. Yep, the Rona was a 2019 problem. A problem that more competent leaders would have been better prepared for, instead of dismissing it and calling it a flu and saying we got it under control when we don't. We did not have this under control. The Rona will still be going strong in 2021. Will we be better equipped to handle it under the new administration? I hope so. I'd like to think it's better to deal with people who actually believe in science. Science exists, guys. I expect a bigger emphasis on preventative measures like wearing masks and whatnot. So wear your mask, people, and stop breathing on your coworkers. Now, some of you have endured tremendous loss this year, and it's heartbreaking to think that your loved ones would still be here if it wasn't for a lot of bumbling and mismanagement on the political level. You have every right to hate this year. I'm with you. But for the rest of y'all who are gauging the misery of this year on the number of celebrity deaths that have happened, well, y'all are not gonna be ready for 2021. We go through this every year, guys. Tell me if this doesn't sound like you. R.I.P. to such and such. God, I hate 2020. This year can't end soon enough. There are so many celebrities in so many genres in so many countries. And guess what? Celebrities die. Every year too. Don't think that's going to end in 2021. More celebrities are going to die next year. More celebrities are going to die in 2022. As depressing as that sounds, that's just the reality of it. And it's not because of the year, it's because it's just their time. Time is relative. The universe doesn't operate on what the calendar says. Ask 2012. Hey, as a sports fan, I'm a Giants fan and a Knicks fan. It's been 2020 for us for at least a decade now. Okay, so it's no secret that 2020 came with a lot of difficulties, but it's also come with some grand and very obvious revelations. Revelations that we knew were true for a very long time, but companies could no longer deny it. In 2020, these companies were exposed for what they really and truly are. Assholes. For years, businesses told you that they couldn't do this and they couldn't do that, only to show how easily they can do it. For years, schools said that they couldn't do remote learning in this day and age, in the 2000s. And then a pandemic came in, look at them, doing it. They could have been done this. Just give the kids a laptop and accept the fact that they're having class while watching SpongeBob. Or whatever it is kids watch these days. Your job told you for years that you couldn't work remotely, and they made you come to work in the middle of blizzards while you were sick or while your kids were sick. Then a pandemic came, and now they got you in Zoom meetings. Dress shirt up top, panda pajama pants down below. Now they could have done this for years, but they like maintaining that capitalistic stranglehold on the working classes' mental health and morale. Now my girlfriend works in a hospital. She's an essential worker. God bless her, she's a hero. Round of applause. Woo-woo. She still had her full work hours, but they reduced her work days to 3 days a week, thus minimizing any risky commutes to just 3 times a week. This is something that they can very easily do because they still get the full-time work hours out of you, but they can't get their heads out of their asses to see that. They feel like somehow this affects production or overall production. And you know, production is the name of the game with these guys. Microsoft Japan has a 4-day work week initiative. Their employees have 3-day weekends every week. and Microsoft reported that there was a 40% boost in productivity due to this. There was also less overhead, as Microsoft said that they lowered utility costs by 23%, and they printed 60% less paper. And saving paper saves paper. Try to tell these companies to do more with less without having to lay off a whole bunch of people and boost the workload of the existing employees. Any measure that could be deemed as beneficial to the workers have to be shot down on sight because they have to have you miserable. The baffling thing about it is that these measures benefit the businesses as well. Many companies have gone exclusively to work from home, and it's turned out to be more cost effective as opposed to, let's say, having a big giant Manhattan office and paying the ridiculous rent for it. According to statistics from Coastal Cloud, 77% of employees claim to be more productive when working from home. It's no secret that mood and morale are tied to overall productivity. Global Workplace Analytics shows that companies would save an average of $11,000 per year per half-time employee. Think of how much money a company can save annually when they're not spending money on costs for employees printing, scanning, or microwaving fish in the break room. You know who you are. US companies with remote capabilities actually have 25% lower employee turnover rate, according to statistics from Owl Labs. We've also learned to be adaptive this year. Gyms were closed, so we had to figure it out. I have a home gym that's just resistance bands, jump rope, and an ab wheel. Costs a lot less than monthly membership, and I get the same workout. Restaurants aren't always the first option anymore, so we're cooking more, a lot more. Whether we're good at it or not, we're doing it. We're having Zoom conferences with homemade drinks instead of happy hour. We're having quarantine birthdays. We're proving that all that outside noise, we don't really need. It's nice to have, but when we don't have it, we prove that we can adapt. Well, some of us at least. If there's one thing that this year has proven, it's that we can rise in the face of adversity. So with all that's been going on this year, should we even look forward to 2021? The biggest reason to do so is that we're under new management, and hopefully that brings forth some change. Change for the better, fingers crossed. The fact is that our two-party system has repeatedly failed us, and neither party really has our best interest at heart. But we do have to cling to hope that 46 can succeed where 45 has failed. What we do know is there's going to be a greater emphasis on battling this pandemic and hopefully making it a thing of the past. The more we learn about the Rona, the better equipped we will be to handle it. There are vaccines coming. Whether you think that's good or bad or indifferent, they are coming. One day we'll be back to going to movies, to weddings, passing blunts. We'll have packed stadiums again, and home field advantage will actually be an advantage. Maybe a legit stimulus is on its way. Maybe children won't be put in cages. Maybe we won't hear about forced hysterectomies on detained women. Maybe the economy recovers. Historically, pandemics do end. Not sure if it'll end in 2021, but we should be okay with the right leadership and measures in place. Now, white folks, I know you get defensive and dismissive about this, but I'm talking to you directly, so indulge me for a second. Racism exists. There are statistics and studies that verify this. If you can't be bothered to look up the proven statistics, then just look at your grandfather or your uncle or the mirror for some of you. As tired as you may be of hearing about it, imagine how tired we are for experiencing it. I mean, my brother and I have been followed and pulled over by cops for absolutely no reason. And look at me. Look at me. Pretty harmless. Try to have a little empathy and understanding. Just try to think what it would be like to be a person of color. It's easy to dismiss things when they have no effect on you. And a lot of things in this world does not impact y'all at all. Yet you still have opinions on it. And if you are friends with people of color, do not gaslight them. I mean, we're going through enough trauma with seeing our people get killed on camera. You have absolutely no idea how that feels, so no need to drop your 2 cents on that. Instead of telling, how about asking? Ask an immigrant how it feels to see children locked in cages. Ask a woman how it feels to be out at night and have to worry about her overall well-being. Try to see the world outside of your own bubble. Try listening without talking over people. I know you can do it, so do it. Everyone else, don't forget all the initiatives that 2020 has brought. Do not let these companies or schools think that these changes are only temporary. It benefits everyone. Call them out. Continue to organize. Continue to speak up and speak out against any injustice you see around you or support the people who do. We can shine in the face of adversity. The years change, but the only constant is the human spirit. We got this. But anyway, thank you for tuning into my very first video. Much appreciated from the bottom of my heart. Hope you enjoyed my one-sided conversation. Please feel free to make it two-sided and drop a comment whether you agree, whether you disagree, whether you think I'm right, whether you think I'm wrong, whether you feel like I was on point with something, or if I needed to elaborate a little bit more. Let's have a spirited and respectful conversation. Don't forget to bless me with those good feels and give me a like, a share, and a subscribe. Those are really important and would keep me motivated to keep producing content, because for those who know me, you know that I have opinions and ideas for days. So stay tuned for the next video where we'll be discussing diet culture and that tug of war between being health conscious and being image obsessed. Should be fun. But anyway, this is Dan signing off. Just remember to keep talking. Real talking. Well, so I just got word that there was an indictment in the Breonna Taylor murder. Yeah, I'm listening. Wanton endangerment? What the